Hello, and welcome to this technical insight session brought to you by the Drainage and Water Searches Network. These technical insight sessions will be of interest to property purchasers and their advisors who want to find out more about individual questions covered in a Con 29 DW search. Here's the agenda I will be covering today. I hope to give you a better understanding of the build-over question from the Con 29 DW residential search and why it is essential to know the typical answers that may be provided when responding to this question. So let's start with what you need to know about the products offered and who the industry body is that sets the standards. An essential part of the conveyancing process, the Con 29 DW products provide key information regarding water and sewerage services or assets for conveyancers and their clients. There are two Con 29 DW products available, one for residential conveyancing and one for commercial conveyancing. Wherever it is purchased throughout England, the Con 29 DW will contain the same important property information, and it is compiled from extensive and current data. It is supported by terms and conditions with appropriate guarantees to support conveyancers and their clients. So who is DWSN? The Drainage and Water Searches Network, or DWSN, is a membership organisation that was set up in April 2014 for those companies who are responsible for producing full and complete responses to the Con 29 DW searches. It sets out clear standards that ensures DWSN members maintain high standards of product quality, consumer protection and customer service in the supply of responses to both Con 29 DW reports for the benefit of end users and their professional advisors. It promotes good practice in this specialist area and provides a forum for stakeholders to engage with the sector. So, before we delve into the topic of this video, let's consider the standard sewer and drains layout found at most residential properties. Before purchasing a property, the homeowner should know the type of sewers and drains around their property, so they are made fully aware of what they are responsible for. For sewers and drains, these diagrams cover some of the more common layouts found. Just a reminder that in these diagrams, the blue pipe is the homeowner's responsibility and the white pipe is the water company's responsibility. So for detached properties, they tend to have a single connection to the main sewer. In this scenario, the homeowner is responsible for any drains within the property boundary. Semi-detached properties and terraced properties may have a shared drain, meaning that as long as the drain is serving more than one property, it will remain the water company's responsibility. On this example of a semi-detached property, you can see the area that is shared in white. As soon as that drain is only serving one property, it becomes the homeowner's responsibility. And for terraced properties, you can see the shared drain, the white pipe, is serving three properties in this example, and so it will remain the water company's responsibility. Remember, these are common layouts, and an individual property may have a different drain layout or responsibility. Make sure you check the sewer plan included within the Con 29 DW residential search. Also note that from the 1st of October 2011, the majority of private sewers and lateral drains connected to the public network as of the 1st of July 2011 transferred into public ownership, and therefore it is possible there may be additional public assets which are not yet recorded on the public sewer plans. Water companies may have differing policies, but mainly they will only reactively update and plot those sewers and drains as they come across issues on their network. It's also worth checking new developments built since 1st of July 2011, because until the Section 104 pipework is adopted, it won't transfer into public ownership and the pipework will remain private. For more information on connections, then check out the Technical Insights video for billing and connection status. In this video, we are looking in depth at question 2.7. Has a sewerage undertaker approved or been consulted about any plans to erect a building or extension on the property over or in the vicinity of a public sewer, disposal main or drain? So what is the purpose of this question? Well, when purchasing a property, your client may well be planning to add an extension, a conservatory or a summer house, for example, to that property. They will need to know if any public pipework is running through their property boundary and what it may mean for any further development, as this could influence their decision to purchase. If there is pipework in the boundary and a property has already been extended, then you will need to confirm for your client that any such extension or development had the appropriate planning permission. That will also include checking if a build-over was consulted on. I will cover off the relevant building regulations on the next slide. Potential implications can be costly. Any buildings or extensions erected over a sewer in contravention of building controls may have to be removed or altered. This is why understanding the response to this question is essential before purchasing the property, as the new homeowner may be held liable for any costs if the building needs removing or altering. So what do you need to know about the building regulations? Well, if a development, including extensions and conservatories, are subject to national building standards as outlined in Part 4 of the building regulations, then the homeowner will likely need permission to build over or within 3 metres of the centreline of a public sewer from the local sewerage undertaker. I have provided the full website address for Part H4 of the building regulations if you would like a bit of light reading. Part H4 of the building regulations covers building over sewers and drains and dispersal mains to ensure that the proposed work does not damage the sewer and still leaves access for maintenance and repair. The work must not overload the drain, and Part H4 includes guidance on diverting sewers when needed. So, restrictions can be placed on developments, and they can include a protective strip, which is the area 3 metres either side of the centre line of a sewer pipe, as detailed in building regulations. The size and depth of the pipe and the size of the development will determine if permission to build in this area is needed. Some pipes are protected by a legal easement. If an easement exists on a pipe that crosses the homeowner's land, then this should be included in the property deeds, and therefore you can make your client aware of this prior to purchasing the property. Easements exist to make sure water and sewerage undertakers can effectively operate and maintain their pipes. The terms of the agreement will usually detail any conditions associated with building within the easement area. Next up is a build over, which is an agreement between the sewerage undertaker for the area and the homeowner that gives the homeowner permission to build over a public sewer, subject to certain stipulated conditions, such as providing statutory access to the sewer for maintenance. Finally, if permission has not been sought ahead of any development and it is found to be in contravention of Part H4 of the building regulations, then the sewerage undertaker, in extreme cases, can request for the building to be removed or altered. That will be at the current homeowner's expense, so it is essential to know prior to completing a purchase. So let's look at some of the Typical responses found in a CON 29 DW residential. The most common response in a search is none or no record of a build-over. And that means the sewerage undertaker has never been consulted or provided approval for a build-over. Now, it may be that approval was never required due to the size of the sewer or drain, rather than permission not being sought, but it is always worth checking ahead of any purchase, as the purchaser may be held liable. You can see some examples on screens of maps where question 2.7 was responded to as none or no record of a build-over. In each example, you can see that there is no public sewer under any of the buildings. In the example on the right-hand side, you can see the foul sewer runs close to the building, but not under it. One other consideration is that following the private sewer transfer on the 1st of October 2011, there may be private sewers and lateral drains that have been built over that have now transferred into public ownership. Historically, when these assets were private, there was no requirement for a build-over agreement. Now that the sewer or drain is in public ownership, it may be necessary to apply for a retrospective build-over. It's always worth checking with the property's sewerage undertaker. So in scenario 2, if there is a public sewer or drain running under a building in the property boundary, then it is always useful to have confirmation that a build-over agreement was applied for and put in place ahead of purchasing the property. Now, in the examples provided here, both have build-over agreements in place. In the first example, you can see that the public surface water sewer runs under the edge of the property, but the access manhole is out in the street, and so there is no access restriction. In the second example, you can see that the combined public sewer runs under the property. Initially, this build-over consultation was objected to, as 150mm diameter combined public sewer at an unconfirmed depth was recorded as being within 3 metres of the proposed structure. Upon further consultation, consent was given to the development on the request that all works satisfied the requirement of Part H4 of the building regulations. If your client wants a copy of the build-over agreement, then it is possible to get a copy from the sewerage undertaker, but there may be a fee involved. Again, you'll need to check with the relevant sewerage undertaker. We don't see as many rejected responses, as sewerage undertakers will try to accommodate most applications and will only reject an application where it puts the sewer at risk of damage or restricts access for maintenance. In this example, the application to develop a school site was rejected. The reason given was the current records indicated that the proposed development will be directly over a 150mm diameter combined sewer located at a depth of 0.9 metres and the associated manhole access point. Although the build-over was rejected, a modification of the site layout or diversion of the affected public sewer at the applicant's expense is a possible consideration. The takeaway is that a rejection doesn't have to put an end to any development or extension. It may just add some additional costs. So, buyer beware. Here is an unpleasant example of how things can go wrong. A blockage in a sewer pipe led to the discovery of a manhole cover beneath the lino in a kitchen extension. When the manhole was loosened, the pressure of the blockage caused the manhole to fly open, and it led to the kitchen being flooded with sewage. If a build-over application had been submitted when the extension was being built, the requirement to grant the build-over would likely have included relocating the manhole access point to the outside of the property. Remember, always check if there are pipes running in the property boundary or under a property, as it hints that a build over may be in place depending on the size of that pipe. So let's recap on what I've gone through today. Question 2.7 is a key question as it will confirm if the sewerage undertaker has approved or been consulted on any proposed plans to build over or near to a public sewer or drain. It's included in the search as the presence of a public asset running within the boundary of the property may restrict further development, and so your clients need to be aware ahead of any purchase decision. It's also worth knowing to ensure the correct planning application has been followed and a build over agreement obtained if required. Remember, any buildings or extensions erected over a sewer in contravention of building controls may have to be removed or altered, and it would be at the expense of the homeowner at the time the contravention was found, whether or not they had put up the extension. Thank you for your time today. You can find more videos on our YouTube channel, which you can access at www.con29dw.co.uk. You will also find lots of useful information on the Con29DW products, as well as the contact details for all the suppliers of the Con29DW products. Thank you for your time again.